He said it out loud, on camera, with a straight face. Matt admitted that if Jasmine hadn't gotten pregnant, he probably wouldn't have proposed to her. No hesitation, no sugarcoating, just the kind of gut punch honesty that leaves a relationship gasping for air. And Jasmine? You could literally see her heart leave the chat in real time. This wasn't some petty argument or passive-aggressive text. This was the man she left her country for, started building a family with, now openly saying the one thing no woman trying to secure a future ever wants to hear. That if it weren't for Matilda, he may not have chosen her at all. Welcome to Reality Sport. I'm Oliva. Hit that subscribe button if you're already gripping your couch in disbelief, and comment now. Do you think Matt's being cruel, honest, or both? Because this wasn't just confession. This was a reset. Suddenly, their entire relationship timeline doesn't look like romance. It looks like obligation dressed up as effort. And Jasmine? She didn't scream. She didn't throw something. She went quiet. That's when you know it's serious. That silence was louder than 50 screaming matches. Because she's done the long-distance thing. She's cried her eyes out over Gino. She packed her dreams, crossed borders, tried to start fresh. To her, this connection with Matt was supposed to be safe. But in one sentence, he made it feel like she was never more than the mother of his child. Now, let's rewind for a second. This was all triggered during a game of truth or dare. You know, the kind of thing couples do for light bonding, not life-shattering revelations. When asked if he'd still be with Jasmine if there wasn't a baby involved, Matt didn't deflect. He didn't soften it. He said no, not right now. The kind of raw honesty that sounds respectable. Until you remember, she's sitting right next to him, carrying all the mental weight of building a family in a foreign country. And now wondering, was any of this real? And let's not forget, Jasmine has her own emotional scars. Her divorce, the stress of immigration, the constant narrative that she's unlucky in love. When she stares at Matt with that clipped breath and glassy eyes, she's not mad. She's scared. Scared that history's on the verge of repeating yet again. Matt keeps saying he's been patient. He's sacrificed too, but there's a fine line between patience and pressure. Saying, I'm not going to wait forever unless you commit, sounds reasonable. Unless you're saying it to a woman who's still reeling from her last marriage crashing in flames. And Matt drops that line like an ultimatum, while also refusing to give her emotional security. Instead, she gets a vague expiration date. He's okay staying. Until one day, he won't be. It wasn't just a statement. It was a threat dressed up as self-respect. And Jasmine felt it. Because when a man tells you the only reason he's sticking around is the baby, he's not saying I love you. He's saying I have a responsibility I'm tolerating, not a person I'm choosing. Who wants that? And here's the irony. Matt's always painted himself as the mature one. Level-headed, logical, the one who grounds Jasmine during her emotional waves. But in this moment, his truth didn't sound grounded. It sounded destabilizing, like an earthquake at the foundation of everything they were building. And Jasmine? You could see the wheels turning. She's done the impulsive thing before, chasing affection that turned out fake, ignoring red flags because hope speaks louder than logic. But this time, she recognized the damage in real time. She wasn't going to rage. She was going to reposition. And that's exactly what she started doing. You think that was the bombshell? Wait until you see what Jasmine does next, because this quiet heartbreak turns into a cold calculation, and she might already have one foot out the door. The fallout didn't end with Matt's confession. It spread. Fast. And next in Jasmine's emotional blast radius? Florian. Someone she once called a friend. Actually, not just a friend, a brother. A rare ally in her chaotic orbit of reality TV drama. But tonight, That bond cracked, and in front of a live studio audience, no less. Public humiliation hits different when it comes from someone you trusted to protect you, not participate in your takedown. 1 minute, Jasmine's barely holding it together from Matt's baby bomb. The next, Florian stepping in, not to support her but to throw gasoline on her wounds. On live television. Without a flinch. While sitting 3 feet away from her, he didn't pull punches, he went straight for the jugular, bringing up Gino, questioning Jasmine's integrity, mocking her past choices. And the moment he said you never loved Gino, her energy snapped. Her head swiveled, her face dropped, and everything in her body language screamed betrayal. Because for Jasmine, loyalty isn't just expected, it's emotional currency. And Florian? Cashed out. Then Jasmine did what Jasmine does. When pushed past the line, she went raw, unfiltered, and one sentence exposed everything ugly sitting under their fake friendly dynamic. She hit back where it hurt. Accused him of being a sugar baby. Used his own marriage to Stacy as ammo. Didn't just drag the man, she took receipts and swung with intent. Because Jasmine may be emotional, but she's not stupid. She sees patterns, and this pattern feels familiar. A friend who listens while smiling, then sides with her ex the second the tide turns. Was she harsh? Maybe. Was she completely wrong? That's up for debate, but her rage wasn't random. It came from somewhere specific. Months of confiding, sharing, vulnerable truths behind the scenes, believing Florian was in her corner. And then boom. One viral talk show segment and suddenly he's on Gino's side? Publicly echoing the same hurtful narrative she thought she'd finally escaped? This wasn't about a phrase. It was about a shift. A betrayal that made Jasmine realize she might be more alone in this group than she thought. And Florian? He didn't fold. He doubled down, shouted over her, called her disrespectful, weaponized her past relationship decisions as proof she wasn't capable of real love. And once again, Matt said nothing. That silence hurt her almost as much as Florian's words. If you thought Jasmine was emotional before, wait until you see what happens when she links betrayal from friends and abandonment from partners into one painful realization. And someone unexpected is about to pay the price. For Jasmine, this isn't just about romance anymore. It never really was, not fully. Not the moment she saw 2 pink lines on a test that changed everything. Now, every choice she makes isn't for herself alone. It's for Matilda. So, when Matt casually mentions there's a timeline on their relationship, what Jasmine hears isn't "I need commitment." What she hears is a clock ticking down to a breakup that drags her baby through another fractured home. Again, she's been here before. Married. Divorced. Holding the pieces. Picking up after love that looked good on paper but didn't survive reality. And now? There's a child in the equation. A child who didn't ask to be born in limbo. That's why Jasmine's so shaken. It's not just self-protection. It's maternal instinct. Matt doesn't see it that way. To him, he's being honest. Transparent. Trying not to waste time if this isn't going to lead to marriage. But his logic feels cold. As if Jasmine's hesitations are just delays, not trauma responses. The woman has already moved mountains. For him. Crossed countries. Gave up stability. Explained herself to his judgmental mother more than once. And yet, every time she asks for patience, he reminds her there's a finish line getting closer by the day. At what point does pressure stop being love and start becoming manipulation? Jasmine isn't dumb. She's emotional, yes, but she reads subtext faster than most. And this whole "I won't wait forever" routine? It doesn't sound like love. It sounds like leverage. Like he's using Matilda as emotional collateral in a bigger game of prove you love me right now or I'm leaving. He claims he wouldn't be here without the baby. That's not small talk. That's a weaponized truth dressed up as vulnerability. And when she tried to talk about it, calmly, clearly, he accused her of being drunk. As if her fears only count when she's sober. As if the woman raising his daughter isn't allowed a single emotional mess without being written off as unstable. Still, Jasmine's stuck. If she walks now, she risks repeating a cycle she barely survived last time. But if she stays, is she agreeing to be half-loved forever? And there is no clear plan B here. Starting over again would mean finding somewhere else to live. New income. New support. Jasmine's not naive. She knows independence takes more than strength. It takes resources. It takes certainty. And she has neither right now. So she does what many women in her position do. She stalls. She spirals. She runs scenarios through her head 200 times trying to solve a puzzle she didn't create. Did Matt say what he said? Out of anger? Out of fear? Or was this his truth all along? And if it was his truth, then Jasmine knows what has to come next. But she's not ready to say it out loud just yet. The real decision is forming quietly behind the full volume chaos. And when it hits, it won't be with a whisper. When outsiders start calling out your relationship harder than your partner does, you know the cracks are no longer private. Jasmine didn't ask to be the center of attention in this conversation, but Yara and Andre made sure she had no choice. What was supposed to be a low-key group dinner turned into a roast in real time, and Jasmine found herself at the center of a table full of raised eyebrows and sharp opinions. Andre went in first, straightforward, brutal, unapologetically Eastern European in tone. He looked at Jasmine and said, "What Matt wouldn't. Why won't you say yes to this man? He's calling Matt a gem, practically treating him like imported husband material." Andre's tone wasn't gentle. It was judgment dressed as concern. And Jasmine? She tried to explain that she's scared, that the idea of another marriage makes her freeze. But Andre wasn't buying it. To him, it sounded like excuses. Then enters Yara, casually stirring her drink and her opinion at the same time. She tosses out a question that lands like a slap. What even attracted you to Gino in the first place? Coming from anyone else, maybe it would have slid. But from Yara, who's got the looks, the confidence, and the marriage Jasmine envies, it felt loaded. Jasmine fired back instantly. Said Yara, of all people, should understand falling for someone outside your type. "Look at Jovi," she snapped. "You're a 10. He's a 3.5. That line didn't just sting, it stunned the entire table into silence. But under the savage read was a deeper confession. Jasmine wasn't defending Gino. She was defending the version of herself who believed in unhealthy love, who clung to virtual courtship because it felt safe and pretty, and promised something better, who ignored early warning signs because being wanted, even by the wrong person, was better than feeling invisible. Yara, for once, didn't clap back. Maybe because she saw something familiar in Jasmine's answer. Or maybe because the deeper truth was sitting in front of all of them. This instability around Jasmine isn't always everyone else. Sometimes, it's hers. And no one around the table said it. But you could feel it. That shift when people who once defended you start wondering if they should stop. Matt, quiet again, watched all of this unfold like a man on mute. It was like he wanted everyone else to do the dirty emotional work for him. Let the cast draw the lines. Let other people tell Jasmine what he's too scared to say. But silence doesn't save you from consequence. And Jasmine knew it. The people around her were getting bolder, less patient, more confrontational. That only happens when they think you're bluffing your way through pain. Or worse, manipulating it. The only person missing from this awkward therapy session disguised as dinner? Gino. But he won't stay on the sidelines much longer. And when he enters this conversation again, it's not to offer support, it's to burn what's left. Just when it felt like Jasmine couldn't take one more emotional hit, Gino appeared. Again. Floating in and out of her storyline like some unfinished chapter she can't rewrite. They had left the chaos of the dinner, walked outside for air, maybe even a minute of clarity. But before any of that could happen, Gino followed them, staring from across the driveway like a love triangle ghost who never got the memo he's been voted off the island. Matt clocked him. Instantly. You could see it in his body shift. The tension, the disbelief. The way his posture went from tired boyfriend to defensive mode, because no matter how much Matt claims to be above the drama, Gino's presence hits a nerve with him in a way nothing else does. Not even Jasmine's indecision. Gino is the one man that lives rent-free in his girlfriend's history, no matter how far they run from it. And Gino? He wasn't subtle. He didn't lurk in the background or pretend he was just stepping out for air. He came out and stopped. Just watched them. Like he had something to say but was waiting for the perfect moment to drop it and cause maximum damage. Drunk looking. Detached. But let's be honest, Gino's awkward energy turns any normal moment into something painfully dramatic. Jasmine froze. Not scared, not angry, conflicted. You can tell when she looks at Gino, there's always something unresolved. Not love, not longing, confusion. Like she's reliving every lie, every betrayal, every time she forgave him just to have it slap her back in the next episode. And the worst part? It's clear she hasn't fully untangled that knot yet. Which is exactly why Matt's sweating internally. Catching that look in her eyes, that flicker of curiosity. Or worse, sympathy. That reminder that Gino still tugs at places Matt can't reach. Because you can tell Matt doesn't understand why she even flinched, why she didn't immediately shut it down, why she's still so readable when it comes to her past. Now remember, this is the same Gino who is still technically on paper tied to Jasmine, legal father of her child, the one who allegedly tried to push for deportation, who dragged her through online wars and messy headlines. He should be the last man she ever defends or allows near her heart again. But history, especially toxic history, has a habit of feeling more familiar than healthy love. You can feel Matt restraining himself in that moment, not wanting to explode in front of cameras, but also not wanting to witness Jasmine's emotional wires crossing right in front of him. And Jasmine? She's too tired to decode her own reaction, too overwhelmed to address the look on Gino's face, or the fact that his presence still stirs something in her, long after it should have faded. And if Matt thinks this moment was the end of Gino's disruption, he's dead wrong, because Gino didn't come outside for a walk. He came for one last move. And he knows exactly which thread to pull to unravel everything. There's a moment when a woman stops crying and starts planning. Jasmine reached that moment in the parking lot. Gino still lingering behind her like an emotional landmine, Matt standing next to her with nothing left to say, and her own heartbeat louder than both of them. That was the switch. She didn't shout. She didn't plead. She booked a hotel room. Quietly. On her phone. Thumb scrolling like her future depended on the next confirmation screen. And maybe, in a way, it did. Matt tried to follow her, of course, still believing he had the right to fix it. Still talking like this was an overreaction, not a person breaking under years of pressure, poor choices, and partners who love on their terms. But Jasmine wasn't hearing it. And for once, she wasn't performing for anyone. Not the cameras, not Matt, not even herself. She was done. Not angry, not loud, done. This wasn't about the hotel. It was about reclaiming authority over her own life. Because Jasmine had bent every part of herself to accommodate this relationship. She changed countries, changed routines, took in the judgment from Matt's mom, the passive tone of his suggestions, and the silence that followed every time she asked for more. In trust, in validation, in respect. And now he expects her to gloss over the fact that he's giving their relationship an expiration date like it's milk in the fridge? No. She has a daughter to think about. And as unbearable as it is to walk away with a baby on your hip and heartbreak in your back pocket, what's worse is staying in a dynamic that makes you feel disposable. The rest of the ride to the hotel was quiet. Jasmine in her head. Matt trying to spin his version of the truth like always, saying she took his comment too seriously, that he didn't mean it that way, that she's not being rational. That word. Rational. The word men love using when a woman finally stops tolerating emotional instability and starts making exit plans. She wasn't irrational. She was wounded. There's a difference. She had seen with painful clarity that Matt's love, while steady on the outside, was conditional in the shadows. And now, she didn't want to raise her daughter in a space where she's walking on eggshells, second-guessing whether the next argument will be the one that ends them. When they arrived, she got out of the car first. No hesitation. Grabbed her bag, gave the driver a nod, adjusted her jacket. Not a word. Matt caught up behind her, still sounding like he was in damage control mode. He asked if this was really necessary. She turned to him, calmly, and said, "If that's really how you feel, I don't need to wait for the lease to expire. I'll move out now." She didn't blink. No performance, no bargaining. She was literally ready to pack up her child and rebuild her life from scratch rather than gamble on a man who doesn't fully want her. You could see something in Matt's face shift when she said it. That realization that she wasn't bluffing. That he might actually lose her. Not because she wants to punish him, but because protecting herself has finally become more important than pleasing him. And this wasn't an easy call. Jasmine's entire life is caught in between emotional chaos and maternal clarity. She's still figuring out how to be a mom, how to reparent her own brokenness, how to build trust again without getting fooled. But she knows one thing for certain. Raising a baby under threat of emotional instability isn't strength. It's failure in disguise. And she refuses to fail again where it matters most. Still, let's not lie. She's scared. Her voice may come off strong, but she's got no game plan. This wasn't pre-packed. There's no savings account marked run fund. So, yes, she's starting over blind. But she prefers discomfort over dishonesty. At least she'll know her choices are hers now. And Matt? This moment exposed something deeper about him, too. How much of his identity is wrapped in being the good guy, the patient one, the understanding partner who puts up with her when she's being emotional. And now that Jasmine's calling the shot, now that she's stepping out of the box he built, he's flailing, unable to control the narrative. Because what does Matt stand on, if not the silent upper hand of, "I stayed even when she was difficult"? What happens when she leaves and takes away his moral superiority badge too? Back inside the house, no one knows yet what just happened between them outside. But the air is messy, toxic, full of tension. And it's only a matter of time before the entire cast finds out Jasmine and Matt might not be under the same roof much longer. Not because they had another shouting match, but because this time, the silence was the loudest goodbye of all. And if you think Jasmine's decision was her final play, think again, because there's one more shift coming. And the next move won't be hers. It'll be Matt's. And what he does next could either win her back or end this thing for good. The door didn't slam. It didn't creak. It didn't even close with drama. It clicked. Soft and final. Jasmine walked through it first. Bag in hand, pulse steady, face unreadable. Matt followed half a step behind, still trying to catch up emotionally with what had already shifted physically. There wasn't a storm or a blowout. But that made it worse. Because sometimes, it's the quiet exits that leave the loudest echoes. This wasn't new behavior for Jasmine. When she's overwhelmed, she moves. She exits. She looks for space. Because space is the only thing that ever speaks back clearly when she's spiraling. But this time, it wasn't reactive. It was strategic. That door she just walked through was an escape. It was a boundary. One she drew herself. And one she fully intends to keep, no matter how badly Matt tries to paint it as a tantrum. He's still stuck in the loop, asking questions she's already answered in her mind. Are you really going to leave? Just for tonight, right? We're still okay, right? But Jasmine can't give him the reassurance he's fishing for. Because the truth is, she's not sure. Not about him. Not about herself. Not even about tomorrow. And that's the scariest part of all. She stares at her hotel keycard like it's heavier than it should be. This tiny rectangle now represents freedom, fear, regret, hope, and a headache. She wanted peace. Now it's her, a suitcase, and a baby that didn't ask for any of this. Alone in a room that smells like industrial laundry soap and bad cable. This wasn't where she thought she'd be. Not tonight. Not this season. Not in this stage of love. Back at the house, whispers are already beginning. Where did Jasmine go? Why didn't she come back? Did they break up? Is someone crying in the bathroom again? This cast lives for drama, but even they know the difference between a storyline and a real fracture. And this one? Everyone feels it. This wasn't for ratings. It was Jasmine at emotional capacity. Matt re-enters the space, like a ghost. Quiet. Tense. No dramatic entrance. No declarations. Just a man realizing, in real time, that maybe he pushed too far. Maybe that confession, drunk on honesty and frustration, was the exact sentence that unstuck the person he was trying to keep anchored. He doesn't say much. He sits, waits, scrolls, checks his phone like she might message. But Jasmine doesn't bite. For once, she's not chasing resolution. She's sitting in the discomfort. And that patience, that pause without apology, that's growth. And yet, the question lingers. Was she bluffing when she said she'd leave? Or did she mean it? Is this the end of their life, under the same roof? Matt's not sure. Jasmine's not sure. And somehow, that mutual confusion is the answer. Then there's Gino, still out there, still lurking like a glitch in the system. Everyone knows he's involved emotionally, even if technically he's a non-factor. He's the man Jasmine once loved deeply enough to fight for. Now, he's inserted himself into a moment that should have belonged to Matt and Jasmine alone. And whether or not Jasmine's over him completely, Gino clearly doesn't think his chapter is closed. It's the way he watched them. The way he stayed near, saying nothing but saying everything. Gino doesn't have to speak to cause chaos. His presence alone rattles equilibrium. And Matt felt it. The unspoken jealousy. The quiet dread. The question he's never asked Jasmine out loud. If you had to choose again, would you still pick me? Because it was never just about the baby. Or the lease. Or the timeline. This was always about choice. And tonight, Jasmine showed Matt what it looks like to choose herself. No screaming. No passive-aggressive insults. She clicked that hotel room door shut, pulled her daughter close, and let silence say the things Matt wasn't ready to hear. I'm not where I want to be. And you are not who I thought you were. And now, we're left at the edge. Does Matt show up with a real apology and an offer to change? Not just his tone, but his behavior? Or does he play the victim because she dared to check out emotionally first? Will he chase her? Or let her go? Just to say he was the mature one who didn't beg? And Jasmine. Does she spend this night staring at the TV just to avoid thinking? Or does she replay every warning sign she ignored and finally believe her own version of the truth? Next episode, the fallout's not just private, it's public. And someone's silence will speak way louder than an apology. You'll want to see who flinches first.